All right, howdy doody, y'all. So I'm a little bit early, a couple minutes early, and I'm just gonna wait for folks to make their way in before I start talking about anything. And yeah, this is the first Sunday sermon that I'll be doing. And if you're wondering why it's called a Sunday sermon, it is literally because a group, a few community members actually started it off with the calling me the preacher. So now the Bitcoin preacher or Bitcoin Cash preacher, I guess it's still unfolding, and thought we might as well just run with the theme. And we're definitely not looking to create an organized religion here around Bitcoin, because we must remind ourselves that Bitcoin is not a religion. Bitcoin is a technology. Hey, Kenneth. Ken, I'll call you Ken, brother. Good to see you. Thank you for making it on. Just talking to myself, while waiting for people to get on. And let's see, who else do we have on? It's weird because I'm doing this from the Facebook desktop app. What's up, Rob? Good to see you. Good to see you guys. So I might just actually give a few more minutes for folks to make their way in. They're probably going to get the notification and then get in. Yeah, man, I know, right? After we talked. And just, I guess, a reminder for folks who do end up watching this particular video, it is not going to be a primer on Bitcoin. The idea with these sermons is I'm actually just going to give a recap of what's been happening over the week in the Bitcoin world and any of the associated technologies and markets. But yeah, for those of you who are watching or will be watching, if you're looking for an intro or primer to Bitcoin, I will be releasing a course at the end of this month. And I'll also have some written tutorials and guides in the pinned post of the group if you're new to this world. So yeah, with that, it looks like we got 4 people in. So for the other 2 people, if you guys are watching, are you able to make a comment in the comments section? Thank you very much, Ken and Rob, for sharing your messages. But I'm just kind of testing out this Facebook Live. It's probably the second or third time I've done this, and we have had technical issues in the past. So, Sammy, good to see you. Thank you for messaging me earlier as well. As you'll see, Rob and Kenneth are both familiar with some of my religious analogies for the Bitcoin world. And, this is more for entertainment purposes. We will keep reminding people that when we are making these references that, it's more just because we're creating kind of our own culture with this community. Hey, Stacy, good to see you as well. Thank you for making it on. Yep, so the idea is, guys, we're going to try and do this every Sunday, just like you would expect at a church. This is kind of crazy. And yeah, we'll look at what's been happening over the last week. I'll share a little bit of what I think is going on. And yeah, at the end, if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to ask away. In the future, I'll probably invite some folks from the community to also come in, share with y'all their views, because we have some very smart folks in the group as well. What I'm looking to achieve with the group is to really help folks understand this Bitcoin world simply. There is a lot of information and conflicting information out on the internet, and I definitely do have my biases in this world, so it's important that when I share what I know, 1, it is not official financial advice, 2, they are my own opinions, and 3, I will always encourage everybody to do their own research. And so, take the fundamental principles and the foundational elements, and then go off and do some more learning of your own. And that is what will help you with any sort of investments you make into this crypto world. Okay, so we got around 6 people on, so that's a good start. So I might just start by introducing myself for those of you who don't know me, who are new to the group. My name is George C. Samuels. I am the founder of the Bitcoin Will Come group. This was a fork. This was a split off of my original group called the Success Will Come group or community, which is actually linked in this group. And that was actually linked to something else called the It Will Come Show, which is a podcast that came from a It Will Come philosophy that I have, which is more about learning to have a little bit, or balancing a little bit more of your own personal faith and trust, whether it's God, the universe, or something higher. Balancing that with your own knowledge and your own logic. So yeah, with that, that's how the Bitcoin Will Come group came about. My history in the Bitcoin world is I first stepped into it back in 2013. I was actually featured in a documentary called The Bitcoin Doco, and that was put together by my good friend Dale, who resides in Melbourne, and her Twitter handle is, I'll just put it in the comments actually, it is @madinmelbourne. So if you're not following her, I definitely recommend you follow her. She's the one who helped get me into this world. And ever since then, in the beginning, it was actually very heavily community driven. The ideal or the vision was very libertarian in nature, and you will hear this a lot the more you get involved in the Bitcoin world. And what that meant was there were a lot of people who were interested in sort of unbanking the banks or moving away from centralization of power with banks and corporations, etc. The history of Bitcoin itself came out after the GFC in 2008. So we have 2009 is when the original, Bitcoin was created. It was created by a guy named Satoshi Nakamoto, which is actually a pseudonym for somebody else. That will be a separate topic. But yeah, that was my first foray into the world of Bitcoin. And to be honest, actually, I wish I had put more, of course, back in the day. I actually put down $50 in 2013. The place that I was working at, Hub Melbourne, had the first Bitcoin ATM. And so it was pretty cool to be able to put cash into that Bitcoin ATM and then use a QR code to actually see the Bitcoin go into our digital wallets on our phones. But then I ended up using my Bitcoin, about $30 worth of Bitcoin, to buy some beer and food at some local stores, because back then there were stores in Melbourne that were already using Bitcoin or accepting Bitcoin as payment, which was pretty cool. And it was very underground, and as I said, it was very community driven. And my profession is I am actually a community manager for a financial tech company called Iris. It's a global company, been around for about 30 years. And yeah, community has been a very strong part of my life, and that's kind of what made me really love Bitcoin, was because there was so much of this like tight community cohesiveness to it. And the vision was compelling. They wanted to essentially create a truly global currency that did not require any trusted third parties or intermediaries to be able to transact with one another. So somebody in Nigeria, doesn't have to go through Western Union or some dodgy ways to be able to get money across to, their family, say in Switzerland or something, or vice versa, right? Immigrants or folks who need to leave their countries and send money back home. That could all happen without the need for a formal bank account. It could just happen through Bitcoin. And so fast forward a few years, I kind of forgot about my Bitcoin, and then started to hear more about it come end of last year, early 2017. And then I ended up going back to check my wallet of $20, and the amount was now worth about $200. And I was like, whoa, interesting. And then I went, damn, if I had put more in, what would my balance have been right now? But that's the nature of this. You never really know how things will go. Granted, there are other people in this particular Bitcoin Will Come community who have had far more amazing stories about them putting in a little bit of money back in 2013-14, and then remembering that they had an account very recently and seeing that their returns had multiplied how many-fold. So today, as I mentioned in the theme for today, it is about the flippening. Excuse me if I do go over some stuff that is a little bit over your head if you're a beginner. Do feel free to still put in comments if there are any questions about what I'm talking about as I'm talking about it. And I'll do my best to sort of weave it in to the dialogue as I'm talking about this flippening stuff. So to get started, the flippening, what is that? All right, so the flippening essentially is a term that is used by the general Bitcoin community to describe what happens when one cryptocurrency overtakes another. And this first came about between Bitcoin, so BTC. So when I talk about Bitcoin, for the purpose of this talk, I will use BTC, Bitcoin. It's also quickly becoming Bitcoin Legacy now, and I'll explain that why. But BTC and Ethereum, or ETH. And if you're not familiar with share markets and how they work, essentially every cryptocurrency has a ticker, and they're usually 3 letters. Can be more, but usually they're 3. The Bitcoin that everybody knows right now is BTC, and Ethereum is ETH. So the flippening first came about as a term when people were seeing Ethereum take off and were in terms of market cap and price, and were expecting it to overtake Bitcoin, BTC. That never happened, and it's still anybody's game. But recently, literally over the last week, I'll say the last couple of days, something very interesting happened with something called Bitcoin Cash. And if you are new to the Bitcoin world and you didn't even know that there was more than one Bitcoin, well, welcome to the Bitcoin world. So Bitcoin Cash's history is essentially, in August, there was an ideological conflict within the Bitcoin community itself as to where people should be taking Bitcoin, or where Bitcoin was headed. There are a lot of people who truly believe in the original Satoshi Nakamoto vision of Bitcoin being not controlled and decentralized in terms of the technology itself. Never in a million years did the original Bitcoin advocates foresee an attempted takeover. And I'll use this lightly because I don't want to bring in too much politics into this, but they didn't expect a group of people to be able to actually limit Bitcoin's potential. But that's essentially what happened with a group called Blockstream. And they were essentially the original core developers. And in the Bitcoin history, what happened was eventually as Bitcoin started to rise and get more popular, it also caught the attention and eyes of governments and banks. And so what ended up happening was some of the original developers, Satoshi Nakamoto, and a few others, they ended up stopping work on Bitcoin. And that kind of left a gaping hole in terms of direction, vision, and momentum. And so I think it fell upon these other core developers to continue on what they thought was best for Bitcoin. And I think they genuinely felt like were doing the right thing for Bitcoin. But unfortunately, what has happened is that it's kind of hindered the true, what should we call it? The true potential of Bitcoin. And how they did this was essentially by giving putting a limit on something called block sizes. And remember, once again, guys, some of this may be terminology that you're like, what are you talking about? Just try to stick with me. So as a result of that, they call it the 1 megabyte limit on the blockchain sizes. And as a result of that, I like using analogy. So what happened there with the 1 megabyte cap is that it created essentially, imagine a highway, all right? You've got a highway and you have, say, 5 lanes, and you have cars, kind of free flowing in each of those lanes. But then somebody comes and puts in boom gates and creates a toll off the highway and forces everybody to go down that little road in order to get a fee for using the highway. And that's essentially what happened to Bitcoin, thanks to the Blockstream guys. And can't say, can't go into conspiracy theories around it, but what essentially that meant was that Bitcoin then became not Bitcoin anymore. the Bitcoin vision was for it to become a truly global currency. And in order for that to occur or happen, it needs to have low transaction fees and faster transaction times. So what has now happened, running up to, as early as last week, was Bitcoin fees were becoming ridiculous. If, say, for example, you were to buy a $20 t-shirt, the Bitcoin fees were at about $7. All right. And if you imagine that going to a third world country, that's just not acceptable. Like it won't have the scalability, it won't have the fungibility, and it won't have the adoption power outside of the West. So Bitcoin Cash has come in to essentially help with those things from the technology side. And what happened over the last couple of days was monumental. We essentially saw Bitcoin Cash go from around $400, $450 per Bitcoin Cash token to right now $2,500, and I'm speaking in Australian dollars. Sorry for you non-Aussie folks. To about $2,500 per Bitcoin Cash. And I had been telling a lot of people about this since late August, early October, when I heard from my friend in Melbourne about this. And I really trusted her advice because she was the one who got me into Bitcoin in the first place. She's one of those, visionary types, see things before they happen, even if other folks don't get it or are highly skeptical. And I've always learned to pay attention to the crazies because some of them aren't always so crazy. And because she was right with Bitcoin in general, and for her, who was actually a huge supporter for Bitcoin, to then say, actually, you need to look at Bitcoin Cash, for me, it was just no doubt. I was like, okay, let me go look at this and let me start moving my funds. So then I reached out to a whole bunch of other people, key influencers in the space, some names that you should pay attention to or write down in terms of who you should be following to really make sure you're picking the winning team. Roger Ver, he's also known as Bitcoin Jesus. We also have Jihan Wu, who owns a company called Bitmain, and they create a lot of the Bitcoin mining machines. And Craig S. Wright, who is the chief science officer, or something like that, or chief research officer for nChain. These three guys, I'm lucky enough to have. Are we still on? Damn. Guys, can you just comment in the chat box so I know if you're still there? Kind of disconnected for a bit. Yes, okay, cool. Thank you very much, Michael. All right, so yeah, those guys are key ones. Thanks. So those guys are key folks to follow and to listen to and to read. And one of the things that helped me to get to where I am now in terms of being right with the Bitcoin Cash surge or flip was I kind of took what I did in the past anyways when it came to tech companies. Like, I love my tech. And that was to, one, listen in on the community, two, keep trusted sources close to you, three, choose right leadership, right team, I guess. And then four, also look at the value sets of those people. If you look at the value sets or the expertise behind those who were part of Bitcoin Core or Blockstream and those in Bitcoin Cash, in Bitcoin Cash, these guys have more of an economic background, or at least I consider them like Leonardo da Vinci types. Like, they are holistic thinkers. They're not just coming from a technical computer science background or a purely economic background. They are all-encompassing. And that is how Bitcoin was created in the first place. It involved mathematics, it involved psychology, it involved sociology, it involved history. Like, all of those things were wrapped up in the original Bitcoin vision. Yes, on the surface, it's highly technical, and yes, you can make lots of money from it, but if temporary glitch again, guys. Do not know what's happening. So I'll just wait again to see, make sure everybody's still there. All right, cool. Looks like folks are still there. Apologies, guys. Don't know what's going on with the internet. Might think that I'm actually in a third world country myself. Yeah, those are the things that had helped me to choose this side, the BCH side. So the flipping. So as of today, actually, we discovered that there was a point where Bitcoin Cash had actually exceeded Ethereum's market cap. And so the flipping wasn't between Bitcoin and Ethereum. It was actually between the third spot holder, which was Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum. And what that means is if that's possible, and if that can happen within just a couple days in this world, that means that it's also highly likely that Bitcoin Cash can also overtake BTC or Bitcoin Legacy. And to be honest, my feel on that is that that is coming and that will happen. And the reason for that is because of the elements that I've just spoken about. The people who are behind Bitcoin Cash. No worries, Sammy. Thanks for joining us. Those guys who were behind Bitcoin Cash, they were the ones who truly believed in Bitcoin before it became big, and they understood its true vision or its true purpose. And I think BTC ended up losing its way when they started to just make it more about, how much more money can we get from fees, and that's not the way to look at it. The guys behind Bitcoin Cash are thinking much longer term. Yes, people will still make their money by speculating or day trading, but they've been talking about everything that has transpired over the last couple of days, and I think it's gone up more than 3 to 4 times over the last couple of days. That's essentially how things have rolled. And I wish I could screen share because I had a few tabs open to just show you what exactly has been happening. But essentially, I have these 2 tabs. One had I left a tab open from CoinMarketCap.com, and at that time, it was about 3 days ago. I think it was Friday actually. Bitcoin Cash was at $954.30, and if I refresh the page to today, or as of right now, it is at $1,782.68. All right. So remember, I was saying that it had hit $2,500. So there's a lot of volatility. All right. And what you're going to see, if you don't have a stomach for it, suggest you do not watch the prices as they go up and down right now. But the volatility is going to be there, and there is something else that's coming up. Literally tomorrow, November 13th. This is the date you all need to pay attention to. Bitcoin Cash is having its own hard fork. Now, I spoke about the hard fork taking place for Bitcoin Legacy back in August. That's how Bitcoin Cash was created. But a new coin was created because of the ideological split. Hard forks happen all the time in the cryptocurrency world. All right, they're nothing new. So if there's any kind of hoopla around a hard fork, don't get alarmed unless a completely new coin is being created. All right, that's not happening with the Bitcoin Cash hard fork. It's essentially just a protocol upgrade, and nothing should change too much other than something that's fundamental underneath, which is an emergency difficulty adjustment. If you want to know more about that, just comment in the comment section, and I'll send you some info later on about what that means. But essentially what that means for those who have their money invested in Bitcoin Cash right now, it's that this is going to provide a lot more stability to Bitcoin Cash's volatility. All right, and this is just the beginning. From what I've learned over the next couple of months, you will continue to see Bitcoin Cash price rise and rise. And in 2018, it's going to go even further. All right. Just think that Bitcoin Cash has only been around 3 months, and it's already at half of what, it's approaching half of what Bitcoin BTC or Bitcoin Legacy is at right now. That's within three months. Okay, and Bitcoin Legacy has been around for 8 years, 7 to 8 years already. Okay, And yeah, just saw a question from Stacy. Stacy, yes, you can put in as little as $50. This is something that a lot of people seem to get caught up on. They think they need to like buy one Bitcoin or one Bitcoin Cash in order to have any skin in the game. You do not. The idea is that Bitcoin was always meant to be used for day-to-day commerce. Okay, and I think a lot of people have been comparing Bitcoin to gold. Because of its store of value factor. But Bitcoin Cash can actually be a store of value and electronic cash. All right, and this is something I think a lot of folks who come from the traditional mindset can't wrap their head around. They think that they need to be separate. So, some people are talking about Bitcoin legacy already being something that should just be the gold and the store of value, right? And then Bitcoin Cash can just be used for transactions. But yeah, that's not the case. So yes, I would highly recommend, if you have $50, to please create an account, set up a wallet first. And if you want, I can give you a link, Stacy, to set up a wallet. It's a referral link because I'm starting to track how many people were helping to get set up with their own wallets. And I think this is a really good way to measure how we're doing in helping the world to adopt Bitcoin. So I'll start to put those in the group so people have links there, and we can kind of track, how many people are downloading wallets and then putting in their own Bitcoin. But yeah, I've already, just as an example, and I'll wrap up very shortly. But as an example, one of my cousins is having her wedding in Fiji in December, and the family is putting together, about $50 each to send to her. And it'll be about $250 total. And what I'm going to be doing instead is actually putting that $50 into a Bitcoin Cash wallet. And then I will hand her the keys. And she'll probably be like, what is this? I can't do anything with it. But then I'll just, very simply explain that this is an investment for you and your family in the long run. And come 5-10 years, that $50 will grow into something that's substantial. And something that's substantial for people who live in countries like Fiji or Bangladesh or Nepal or wherever, where that $50 can go a long way at the rate that Bitcoin Cash is currently running and will continue to run unless something happens to Bitcoin Cash like it did with Bitcoin Legacy, where somebody tries to come in and put in these caps and increase the fees. So when I talk about Bitcoin, I always talk to the Bitcoin that is true to the original Satoshi white paper. So right now that's Bitcoin Cash, and that's why I'm a big supporter of Bitcoin Cash, but I am sort of a Bitcoin maximalist, if you want to call it that. That's in line with the Satoshi vision and white paper. So yeah, that is Sunday's sermon. I hope you learned a little bit about this space from the little that we discussed and talked about. And I guess I'll open the floor to any of you that are still on for questions. Just feel free to type in a comment, and I'll do my best to answer them right now. Don't be shy. Otherwise, I'll just sit here and awkwardly look at you all via Facebook Live. Thinking caps on. And the weird thing is I can't see who's still on, really, and who's not. No worries, Rob. You're welcome, man. And if there aren't any other questions, then I'll just wrap this up in about 2 minutes. Or I could just keep talking until somebody does have a question. All right, thank you very much, Stacey. All right, so I'll start off with Stacey's question. Is CoinJar a wallet? Just want to verify that. Yes, it is a wallet. There are so there's wallets and exchanges. Some exchanges have their own wallets, and some wallets. When choosing a wallet, I would always suggest one where their software allows you to keep your keys and they don't keep the keys for you, unless you're using that particular site or wallet to transfer over to another wallet. So what I share with everybody is that I usually use CoinJar to, this was originally, I would use CoinJar to send money from my normal real world bank account into CoinJar. And then I would convert it to Bitcoin in CoinJar, and then I would transfer that Bitcoin amount out to an external wallet. I use Exodus, and I would store it there because with Exodus, I hold my own keys. Exodus does not. And this then allows me to have, I guess, more security and comfort knowing that, you know, if those other sites get hacked or something, I don't have to worry about that. Okay, cool, sure. Stacy, I'm just putting it in, Exodus.io. The reason why I choose Exodus is because they do a good job of vetting all the currencies that they allow in their software. So what you can do is once you actually move your Bitcoin over to Exodus, you can then convert your Bitcoin to other cryptocurrencies that they vetted through. All right, because not all cryptocurrencies that are created from an ICO or just out of thin air have gone through their due diligence, but Exodus kind of does that for you. So if it makes it into their list of cryptocurrencies to exchange with, you can bet your bottom dollar that it's going to be good. And the other good thing too is that you can have multiple cryptocurrency wallets in Exodus, and you can see your portfolio of different cryptocurrencies. I think Michael Marr, who's also here watching, he has an Exodus account, and he might be able to share his experiences too on Exodus and why it's worked for him. Next question, I'll go with Zane's first, and then I'll go into Michael's. Zane, thoughts about other types of cryptocurrencies? Yeah, dude, other types of cryptocurrencies. To be honest, right now, because of the way the market's going, I'm focused heavily on the foundations of it all, which is Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash. And I did have, when things were still a bit uncertain, I had my money spread across 5 different cryptocurrencies. They were Bitcoin Legacy, Ethereum, Litecoin, what was the other one? Civic, and there was a 5th one. I think it might have been OMI's Go or OMG. And the reason for that was obviously to kind of, you know, spread the risk, diversify, hedge a little. But because right now the crypto market is, the world right now is similar to the Wild West days. And so if you are going in thinking that you can just put your money in one basket and hold it and, you know, expect that that'll just continue to be, you can do that, but I would suggest you really pay close attention to the cryptocurrencies that you're investing in over the at least next 3 to 5 years, because things can change just like they have for Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Legacy, right? A lot of people were saying, yeah, Bitcoin Legacy, nothing will happen to it. Like it's gonna last. Bitcoin will last, but the form of Bitcoin will change. All right. So that's what I suggest people really pay attention to. That when you're putting your money in, understand that you may need to shift those funds elsewhere over time too, if anything happens like it did for Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Legacy recently. And if you're wanting to know, Zane, about other cryptocurrencies that I am looking at, because what I will do is after I think the upcoming EDA or hard fork for Bitcoin Cash, I will start to diversify again and put my money across multiple other cryptocurrencies that I like, or in terms of, you know, just what they're about. And some of those include Verge. And remember, this is not official financial advice. Verge, Monero, OMI's Go, Civic still I really like. Litecoin, I've taken my money out completely because with Bitcoin Cash, essentially Litecoin has no purpose anymore. It was a lighter version of Bitcoin Legacy, and there's nothing new or innovative coming out of Litecoin. There are a lot of loyalists to Litecoin, but personally, in my opinion, I don't see it lasting long if they don't have any more innovation or anything new come out of it. And you can bet your bottom dollar that Bitcoin Cash is going to have a lot more new technology added to it because of who I know are in those teams working on it. Yeah, so Verge and Monero, I think they're doing some cool things in the privacy space. I definitely think they're worth taking a look at. And I'll probably be putting some of my own money into those. And yeah, so I enjoyed those. Okay, Michael, you put in 30K this week and it's now 78K. Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm glad that we did connect when we did. Guys, that is also a testament to folks, I guess, in my network and the trust that is there. I definitely would not advocate for something I didn't 100% believe in. I also do tell people that this is not official financial advice, but I love my tech, and I'm just glad that I was right about this, because a lot of people were laughing at me and thinking I was nuts to be putting all my money into Bitcoin Cash, but it's paying off, I can tell you that. Independent reserve worked for me, cheaper fees, I can transfer directly there. Yes, independent reserve, guys, if you don't use CoinJar, the reason why I recommend CoinJar for a lot of people is because in terms of the user interface, it's actually a lot easier for beginners than independent reserve. However, if you're more worried about, if you're moving larger funds, like Michael has, which was about 30K, using something like independent reserve is going to be a lot more appealing, and you're not going to worry too much about the user interface or the user experience. You're going to look at like reducing those fees. And this is the thing, as people earn more and more, they're going to be worried about the fees, and that's what the guys behind Bitcoin Cash were talking about. That in the long run, fees will matter. Some people were saying, "Oh, it's just about the branding," you know, like the branding alone will save it. Not in this space. Smart branding cannot make up for a shitty product. Excuse my French. And you know, it all needs to work together. So independent reserve, if you're in Australia, I do highly recommend them as well. I think we're having one of the co-founders from Independent Reserve talk at our upcoming events at my workplace at Iris in Sydney on Tuesday night. And so that'll be good to hear him talk. And we also have Craig Wright. And for those of you who know me, I'm not going to explain his connection to the Bitcoin world just yet, but let's just say he's a pretty influential guy. Rob Fox, right there. Rob just made 3K with his Bitcoin Cash, I'm assuming, since watching this video. And, yeah, that's great. Yep. Michael's just heard $84,000 whilst I was talking. So yeah, the preacher has spoken. And guys, you know that we are over time. I do want to thank you for listening in and being part of this journey, being part of this community that I'm really looking to build out and grow. And also, you know, test out with you guys your Bitcoin Cash transactions or your transactions in general. And one thing somebody did suggest is that I actually share with you guys my my Bitcoin Cash address for donations. If you are at a point where you actually know how to send and receive your Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash, and right now I'm putting in my password so I can actually pass on my Bitcoin Cash address to you. This really does feel like we're at a Sunday church session, which is crazy. It's like the donation bowl part of the sermon. But some folks in the community have actually already sent through some Bitcoin Cash to my address, which as a donation, which was freaking awesome. And I was really thankful for that. But, you know, this is, I guess, a great way to share with you guys if you find this of value, you know, feel free to send some Bitcoin Cash over. Any amounts, whatever you're able to share would be appreciated, because hopefully this advice will actually help you make money too. Yes, Michael, pass the basket. And for me personally, I was speaking to Michael about this earlier today. I do have an altruistic motive to why I'm so strongly behind Bitcoin Cash. And it's, you know, having lived in a third world country in Bangladesh for about 10 years, I know how something like Bitcoin can actually help a lot of those folks. And I'm not just talking about it as, you know, free money or something. It's allowing 9 billion plus people around the world who don't have bank accounts, who can't get set up that way, to actually have nothing but their Bitcoin address that they could send via SMS to one another to actually transact and to actually have something that allows them to lift themselves out of poverty. I'm all about the empowerment side and supporting those in the journey. I'm not much for charity. So yeah, it really is about supporting that mission of helping to get 5 billion users around the world, or people around the world, using Bitcoin, so that we can have this for the first time in human history, like a truly global currency that is decentralized in a way. Time will tell to see what happens, but that is what kind of drives and motivates me, and what makes me excited to just spend most of my time doing these things and helping other folks with it. And I too, of course, want to be part of making history and being part of this side of history, because this literally is history in the making. We are creating or helping to evolve money as we know it. All right, and oh yes, sorry, here is the Bitcoin Cash address. If you would like to try your hand at sending some Bitcoin Cash to it, I would welcome it, would appreciate it, but there's no stress if you don't, all right? I'd also like to thank those in the community who actually helped provide these ideas as well. Like doing this sermon, this actually came about. We actually have a private Facebook group called The Disciples for our more intermediate to advanced users. And maybe I shouldn't use users, or just people. All right, let's just use people. Intermediate to advanced people who want to get that real-time updates on what's happening with the different cryptocurrencies, whether it's Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, because if you're a trader, damn, I just heard some money go through. All right, so let's see. Whoever just sent that money through, thank you very much. Very much appreciated. So you might have heard that little coin drop take place. That was Exodus. So I love that fact. Hey, Rob, man. Appreciate that, brother. So there you go. That is Bitcoin Cash in action right there. And notice how quick that transaction time was. That's what gets me excited, because this stuff just works. And the more you learn about it, the more you can appreciate it. And I'm here to spread the good word about it. To keep things in balance too, and harmonize as much as possible. I'll speak in when I do the course, and maybe in another sermon, I'll actually talk about what has happened in terms of the Bitcoin community or the crypto community. There was a lot of toxicity coming out of it, and Bitcoin Cash coming up the way that it has done, it really has taken, it's helped level things out, balance things out. And I'm all about, as you guys go out, have your beliefs, spread love, spread support, educate folks, but do so in a way that isn't, disrespectful or forceful or utilizing fraud in any way. I think that's what it's definitely about. So yeah, with that, once again, guys, thank you so much for joining today. This is the first of many. I will book in our next session for next Sunday. This definitely will be a commitment, and please, 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 if there is anybody else who you think would benefit from learning about this Bitcoin world, and especially Bitcoin Cash, please invite them into this group. Talk to them a little bit about why it's important, and help get them set up as well. What's most important is really, first step is getting them to be open to getting involved in this world, because it really will help a lot of people. And hashtag it will come. All right, guys, so that's it from me. Thanks for staying over time. We went about 15 minutes over time. And I'll join you guys again next Sunday, or in the Facebook group, or for those of you who are in the Disciples group, I'll see you there as well. Peace out.